What is going on, YouTubeverse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you another Viva La Vinyl classic album review, and it does not get much more classic than this, folks. The 1970 double album, no, actually triple album masterpiece, All Things Must Pass by George Harrison, who just happens to be my favorite Beatle, and this is my favorite post-Beatles solo Beatle album. I think by far this beats anything that Lennon or McCartney did on their own, certainly Ringo. But man, George had kind of stored up all these great songs over the years when he was writing with the Beatles, and Lennon and McCartney actually shot down some of the songs that ended up on here, like All Things Must Pass. The title track was shot down when he suggested that they put it on the Let It Be album in 1968. Incredible that such a beautiful, powerful song, Lennon and McCartney nixed it. But I guess they were just so used to, at that point, kind of taking up 90% of the Beatles albums and just throwing Harrison one or two tracks per album. But by the time Abbey Road came out in '69, in my opinion, Harrison had not only gotten to the level of Lennon and McCartney as a songwriter, his two songs on there, Something and Here Comes the Sun, are the best two tracks on that record. So by the time All Things Must Pass came out in 1970, after the Beatles split up, this was just like opening a treasure trove of all these songs, some dating back to, I think Isn't It a Pity was written back in '66. And let me just stop and say, Isn't It a Pity, my favorite song on this record. Such a beautiful, simple song in its songwriting, but it's powerful. The lyrics: isn't it a pity? Isn't it a shame how we break each other's hearts and cause each other pain? Man, it is so powerful. And if you haven't seen the concert for George from 2003, the year after he passed, most of his friends who performed on this album, Eric Clapton included, put on that amazing concert for him in his honor at Royal Albert Hall. And Billy Preston's performance of this song is just, it'll give you chills. It is so amazing. It got a standing ovation, the highlight of the evening among many highlights. But he also, Billy Preston, rest in peace to him as well, did a great version of My Sweet Lord. Another highlight on this album, and another one that shows that George was really onto something as a songwriter. And, you know, he was really very serious. And I think a lot of that had to do with the spirituality that he was seeking all the way back to the mid-'60s. But really cool how on My Sweet Lord, he combines kind of Christian Judeo religion with that of Hare Krishnas in the lyrics. Very cool. And I'm sure woke up a lot of people spiritually in the early '70s just with that song alone. And there's just so much, you know, his lyrics are strong throughout the entire album, whether he's talking about spirituality, like on Hear Me Lord, an extremely powerful song to end side B of the second record. But also he had like a new voice that he ushered in with the way that he started playing the slide guitar. It's very singular to George. It just sounds like this very angelic, beautiful slide guitar that right from the get-go on I'd Have You Anytime, one of the most beautiful ballads on this album, you're just sucked in and you're like, this is something different. George is his own now. And then from there, you got My Sweet Lord, you got Wah Wah, one of the best rockers of Harrison's catalog, and such a cool song because he's literally saying wah wah about the guitar sound, the wah guitar that is so wonderfully played on this, him and Clapton going back and forth. But then it's also used as a kind of a metaphor of when he left the Beatles in early '69 for a short time, and he went and wrote this song. He was just so mad at them, saying, I don't need your wah wah. And it's just, I love this song so much. Another highlight on here for me. There's so many highlights. I mean, even the B-sides, like the Bob Dylan song that he does on here, If Not For You, which has a little bit of a country tinge influenced by the band. Very cool. You've got Let It Down, another awesome rocker. Beware of Darkness. Man, just so many highlights among highlights. Sir Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll. Apple Scruffs even, which is a song to his fans at that time. And then you've got the third album of just jamming with the band, which, let me just stop and say, the band, I think there's like 20 plus people playing on this record. There were 3 drummers. Ringo was one of them. You had Klaus Vormann on bass. You had Eric Clapton on guitar. You had the entire band of Badfinger playing on this record. And then it was produced by both George and Phil Spector, Mr. Wall of Sound. And man, did they create a wall of sound on this record. I mean, the way songs like Isn't It a Pity and Hear Me Lord build up, and it's just, there's so many guitars at the same time that you can't even really make out one guitar sound. It just sounds like an orchestra of guitars. And that doesn't always work in other albums, but man, does it work on All Things Must Pass. This thing is just epic and majestic and spiritual and beautiful. I mean, the jams even on album 3, which makes it feel a little bloated, but jams like Out of the Blue are just so cool, and they go on for over 10 minutes, and it's just like, yes, man, keep going. That even the short song, It's Johnny's Birthday, which George played it for John Lennon, who just recently had turned 30 years old, is a fun little thing that once it's in your head, you can't get it out, unfortunately. Cute little song there. But I know I'm leaving out some songs that I love on here. Of course, the hit single, What Is Life? Another huge song that really just gets you pumped up when you listen to it. Really cool with the horns. I love what they did there. There's just so many tracks on here. It really reads as kind of a greatest hits. And by the way, it is George Harrison week here on Johnny Radio. So stay tuned. Tomorrow, I'll be listing my top 5 George Harrison songs. And I'm just going to go ahead and say most of them are from this record because, I mean, he could have saved some of these for future records and kind of, let it ride for a while. But I love the fact that Harrison came out of the gates and said, you know what? I'm just going to put all these songs that I've been holding on to for so long on this thing and show everybody what I'm made of. And boy, I mean, it was a huge selling album in 1970. I think it actually eclipsed McCartney and Lennon's albums of that year, and rightfully so. Again, I say my favorite solo Beatle album. Let me know, what is your favorite solo Beatle album, and what are your favorite tracks on here? If I had to pick just 2 with a gun to my head, I would have to say Isn't It a Pity and Wah Wah. My Sweet Lord also coming close. Actually, maybe My Sweet Lord over Wah Wah. I mean, so many amazing songs. But guys, let me know, what are your 2 favorite tracks from this album? What do you love the most about All Things Must Pass? I mean, there's just so much to love here. Even the country song that is pretty much pure country, Behind That Locked Door, that it has just something to love about it. George he just did it, man, on this record. So if I had to give this a grade, I would not give it a perfect 10 out of 10 just because it may be a little overbloated in places, but I give this a very strong 9.5 out of 10. So let me know also what you would score this record. What are your favorites? And guys, stick around. Tomorrow, top 5 George Harrison songs. We got top 5s every week, album reviews, so much more. Thank you for watching, and as always, Viva La Vinyl. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell for notifications so you can always see great quality content like you're seeing on the screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting Johnny Radio, and I'll see you soon.